It's Dale D'Antoni here. Welcome to the Sofa Sessions. D'Antoni, Wines.
Welcome back to the Sofa Sessions. I haven't done a live intro in a while. I usually pre-record them. But today we were at the Dime Museum, D-I-M-E. We are here with Peter today. He is the owner and operator of the Dime Museum. Janitor.
Yeah, sometimes.
He vacuums a lot. We came in here today and he was vacuuming. And it's a fun, mystical, magical place. And so...
But it wasn't that, though,
Yeah.
before you got here. It was only that after you came here, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's a thing. What is a dime museum?
Yeah, what is a Dime Museum?
Yeah.
Because before I never even knew.
Well, exactly. No one's known. But we know about this guy, George Washington.
Boo.
Yeah, well, and the other guy, Abe Lincoln, and Thomas Jefferson. And we know of these folks because they're documented in history, right? But the Dime Museum was not. And, well, we were the first museums in America. We're the first zoos in America. And we're the first forms of entertainment. But no mention of this in a book.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Why is that, do you think?
well, it's because we lied to you, I'm guessing. We lied to you to take the money from your pockets, put into ours as many times as possible. Right? That was the goal, is to take your money. So, and then again, Dime Museums, even when Barnum got in on it, he took the collegiate side of it and made it the entertainment side. And that way he gave you an inexpensive price. Everything was open platform or open floor plan, where wealthy people could stand on one side of the case and a poor person could stand on the other side of the case, and they both could see each other to see that they can afford the same entertainment. And so wealthy people didn't like that, I'm guessing, and wanted to get into their own spaces and be in their own museums, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess written-wise, they say it was a place for lessers and, or the uneducated person. But, you know, our education level back then was pretty much everyone was uneducated except for your wealthy folks. So. But, yes, I didn't know what a dime museum was, and I'm sure you didn't know what one was
no
either.
idea.
And then, so when your preconceived concept of coming here, what were you thinking about of a dime museum? I mean, even all your research you did on us and everything before you came, what were you expecting?
So I had two kind of expectations. One was also, a lot of people get this when I tell them about it now. They said it's like a museum and like they have like dimes throughout the years, like all over the wall. That's kind of what I pictured it as. And also I thought of it as like you pay like a dime to get in. And then I was like, well, if that's the case, then how are they still up and running? Because like inflation and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I actually used 2 dimes today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made me think about you. So
Nice, very nice.
I was getting, well, I don't want to, shout them out or anything for free. So you got me with that on the last one. So
That's the same thing. You know, my thing is as a kid, Dad would always take us to a museum or a gallery. Every weekend the weather was good. I was born and raised in Buffalo. So the weather wasn't that good that often. So when we did have a chance, we would go out and go to museums. Now, when I first seen the Dime Museum in Baltimore, Dick Horn owned that one, and that was the early 2000s. I drove by it. I mean, I drove by it hundreds of times, not just a couple, hundreds of times. And I'm like, I got no desire to see dimes. I got none whatsoever. My dad collected currency. Actually, he did. So I know a lot about currency.
I've been there before.
Yes, exactly. And you got to have magnifying glasses to see it all. And I'm like, how many magnifying glasses do they have in this museum, right? Or do they issue them to you as you go through, right? Is all I thought. And so that stopped me from going in for many years, right? And that was the thing, is it even stopped me. And then I was like, well, Dad would have went in, seen this man's collection, introduced himself, and then been on his way, right? And like my mom and dad are collectors. My grandparents were collectors. Great-grandparents were collectors.
Of currency?
No, of just stuff.
Yeah.
Right? They were collectors. So it's in my bones to collect.
Yeah.
And it's been in my bloodline forever, as being a collector. So when I did walk in the door, I was like, oh, my God. I wasted so many years not going to it.
Yeah.
And I asked Dick, I was like, how can I help you? How can I volunteer to help you become bigger? And so I drew and helped and put flyers and made them a lot of art. and it just didn't bring folks out. Again, you have that word in there, not dime, the other word, museum.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, and it is a bad word today, almost to the point to where no one wants to go to a museum. We've all been to them as kids. What else could Peter have in his space to make it interesting?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's some weird stuff. All right, I've seen weird stuff, right? I've gone to a Ripley's, right? And folks are like, that's what they compare us to also today.
I
is
did that too.
Oh, you
I'm
did?
sorry.
That's all right.
Please
But that's
don't
what
hurt
else
me.
do you have to base
Yeah.
this on, right? That's the horrible part about it. And even if you look it up in on Wikipedia, it's going to point you in that same direction. A collection of stuff. So it's like, oh, how boring is that? But we're the furthest thing from that. It's 2 hours of ups and downs and sideways, and and it's an emotional roller coaster. We give you so much information that you don't get. We also hold your hand. I mean, we can't.
That was my favorite part, actually.
Yeah.
You held my hand pretty well.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we do where no one does, right? And even a guided tour today it's on an app on your phone, I'm guessing, or they give you that little thing to walk around and listen to. So it's still not the same. It's never personal. It's never, we don't talk about your collection, right, at a regular museum. Here, you start inputting into something, I'm doomed.
Yeah.
Right? I am left field crazy, right?
Yeah.
So that's the fun part about here is every tour is different. And then if I know you came to a tour, right, and then you brought your family back, or you came back again, I would change the tour. Because I remember your face, and I'd make it a different tour.
That's good.
Yeah,
I remember you said that. Yeah.
We have core pieces we touch on, but we have so much stuff. As you can see, there's a couple things behind us here that I can just take something different out of each case and talk about that.
Yeah.
Right? And squirrel off and decide that way.
Yeah.
But it's not even that. It's, for lack of a better word, it's an experience. We are an experience. And dime museums were also an experience back then. Again, we are the first forms of entertainment, right? And I know that's a really hard concept to conceive. It really is. And some people would say it's inconceivable. Princess Bride? Yes.
I've never seen it.
And I know
I've
that's
seen the Notebook, though.
inconceivable that you haven't seen this. But still, we have no entertainment back then. And to come into a place like this would have been magical, right?
Yeah.
And then us to continually lie to you about, the turtle boy or the alligator man. But again, you're still like, oh, well, I'm still not hooked because I know what a turtle boy is and I know what an alligator man is. And so that's also going to keep you in your chair at home on your comfy couch, right? Which we want you off your couch into here, right? And so then back to you. How has your outlook on the Dime Museum changed? Besides you wanting to do an interview.
Yeah. It's changed so much because, I mean, the stuff you think of and the stuff that makes it is just, I wouldn't have ever thought of it.
Yeah.
Like, just like the stuff you show us and then, the stuff at the beginning, to kind of hook you in is like, oh, like you said, how long is the tour? You said 2 hours?
2 hours.
Okay. Well, I felt like this, and this is a good way. I felt like it was 30 minutes just because I was just so in awe of it. Like this saying is, time flies when you're having fun.
Sure.
That's how it was.
Well, we get people, they ask how long the tour is. And I really don't want to tell them 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because they get scared. They're like, 2 hours? There's nothing in this tiny little building that I could be captured or captivated by in 2 hours. And I'm like, yeah, it'll sometimes be 3 or 4 hours. But I don't tell them that.
Yeah.
Because if you, again, sidetrack me, I am the definition of it. Sidetrack. I'm sure my face is sitting on that definition because I will run with you into the left field and we'll go crazy, and then I'll kind of have to steer us back and bring us on track, and it happens almost every tour. And so to tell someone I'm going to take you for 2 hours, that's a long period of time in your life today. But another fun thing here is we take your cell phone out of your hand.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't even take it out of your hand.
Not physically.
No, but they always start out, can I take photos? And I'm like, absolutely. And by the time they're in the museum, they forget they wanted to take photos, and you're lost for hours. And then your friends think you died and are laying upside down in a ditch because you haven't answered any emails or texts or whatever happens on those things, You're tweeters or something. I don't know what happens on them. So, but yeah, I don't own a cell phone. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So,
when did you give up the cell phone life?
I never had a cell phone to give it up.
Even
I
blocking
remember
it?
when they had it in, we put it in cars and it was a permanent fixture in your car.
Yeah.
And then I didn't want it then for sure.
So you got rid of cars too, or just
No, absolutely not. I love cars. That's a different story. But yes, that's the thing is we do take you from your 20th century world, or what is it?
21st, I think.
22nd century,
Yeah, I don't
23rd
know.
century. I
It's
don't know
one
what
of
we're
them.
in right now. And we bring you back to the 1800s, but we don't force you. It just happens. Right?
Yeah.
You do get transported back into time and you get lost with me on a tour. And it's something that doesn't happen. And I don't know how to put this in words. I really don't. And,
Yeah.
and I know you haven't been very well of describing this either, except it is an experience. It is not a museum, but we are a museum. It is a tour, but it's not a tour.
Yeah.
It's all of that, but it's nothing of what you think it is. And again, these museums were your first forms of entertainment.
Yeah.
And that's just where our museum today has taken that word completely out, the entertainment side, and they have put it on a back burner somewhere. And then even in the larger dime museums, they had lecture rooms, or today we call them theaters.
Yeah.
We have a 127-seat theater that we have shows in of every kind, burlesque, sideshow, every type of music you could ever think of, including Bigfoot playing the saxophone.
That's a good one I've heard.
Yeah, he's Sax Squash. He is amazing. We love you, Sax Squash. So he is a great. If you can ever get on see one of his tours, just go watch him. You'll love him.
Yeah.
So he teamed up with the Oates of Hall and Oates, and they did Man Eater together.
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, we have that on our stage, and that's the thing is being able to be a larger dime museum. We can give you 2 hours, but we also can bring you in for shows at different times. We just had Heaven's Gate here.
Yeah.
And that was a great lecture from that occult in the 70s, 80s, and they 39 of them departed this world to get on Haley Bop and go away. So that one of the former members and 2 of the newer members were here.
Newer.
Yes, they have newer folks, not from that period, but from today.
Oh, they're still going?
Yeah, they. It's. I don't know if it's still going. I don't think it ever stopped. And so they believe in this belief system still, and like they don't condone anything. And then the lady was saying, "We're not going to start an occult. It's very expensive to start an occult, and all that. All the financial part of it. So, but they still believe in that." What the originators or the founders wrote. So, but it was a very amazing lecture, and we're very lucky to have many different type of performances on our stage. So, and then even at the end of our tour, as you come for every tour, John Red Stewart, he's the oldest sword swallower on earth. He gives you a short lecture on the carnival and sideshow world, but he also gives you a performance. So how was that, seeing that?
That was
Have
was
you
pretty
seen
good.
a sword swallower before?
No.
Yeah.
Not in person.
Yeah.
I don't think. You see the ads or whatever, but yeah. Does he not have a gag reflex?
No.
Oh, how do they
you
bypass
suppress
that?
it? It's not
Okay.
bypass. You just have to want to do something.
Yeah.
Right? And
Because
so-
I've jokingly, at the lunch table in high school, kind of played around with a banana in front of your friends, and
No, I don't.
You, okay. Well, that's kind of what the Gen Z people do,
Oh,
these
is that
days.
what they do? They play with bananas at the table. That's another podcast.
But yeah, it was really cool because trying to fit a banana in your mouth is like not a sword, and not even being able to do a banana. So you're like, that's crazy. How do you even learn that? How did somebody even get into that? Or like, how did they first learn how to do it?
Red got into it because he was raised in orphanages his entire life, starting at 4 years old on Christmas Day. Dropped him off. Mom dropped him off and said, "Enjoy your life."
So much for Mary, huh?
Yeah, no, horrible.
Yeah.
And so he had to be adopted, which no one wants a redhead, right? Or an angry redhead on top of it. And then, so that's 14 years in an orphanage. And so for him to get out, he had to graduate high school. So in 66, they came out with a GED. First came out with it, so he said, "I'll take it." He passes it with flying colors. He gets out. And so for him to stay out of the orphanage, now this was when he was 15. So for him to stay out, he had to hold a job. And so what he did, this was Philadelphia, he got on a carnival. and that traveled south to New Orleans. The season ended down there, and he met a bunch of folks down there. But most importantly, he met a gypsy lady, and she's like, "Hey, Red, I heard you need a job," and he's like, "I'll take it." And so he didn't even care what the job was, and so that's how you get into knowing how to swallow a sword, pound a nail on your head, right?
I thought I could do that.
Yeah.
I almost told Mallory that I was going to go home and try that.
Well, that's the worst one, because if you mess up on that, you die. Where sword swallowing, what happens is you just puncture your lungs and your liver and kidney.
Nothing
and all
too
that.
big of a deal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Not like dying, right?
Yeah, well.
The rest of them you can recover from, but the other one, pounding that back in your head too far, you will die.
Yeah.
So this is the most dangerous one. Is that? But you learn how to walk on hot coals, walk on hot glass, and not just like they do today. They have a short 2-foot bed. This is 18 feet long, right? Walk on hot coals or walk on hot glass, right? And lay on a bed of nails, walk a ladder of swords. And this was easier to do than go back to the orphanage. So that was his choice. You either learn these acts or go to the orphanage. So that's how one gets into swallowing swords. And Red has told us many stories of the orphanage, and is like it's the absolute worst life you've ever heard. Every horrible thing you've ever heard in an orphanage has happened to Red, and then some. He's writing about that part of his life, and it's like he'll be over there crying, and it's horrible. I mean, it's absolutely horrible. So, but yeah. But that's how one gets into sword swallowing. Whereas then, like Billy, my littlest, he just one day learned how to do regurgitation. He comes, he's like, "Dad, watch this," and he swallows a cookie, and then he regurgitates it back up, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
So then Red is now teaching him how to swallow swords.
Oh, wow.
So that's how you get into that by not having a gag reflex, right? So, which is nice.
You got to have like an ungag reflex or something.
Exactly. Yes, an on birthday, right?
Yeah. So you said like you drove by the Dime Museum hundreds of times.
I did, and then when I went in, I was like, "This is not." It had nothing to do with currency, and and I thought the guy had like a couple weird things in his collection, and it's absolutely not that.
Yeah.
And again, here we have nothing goes past 1920. So we stay period. Dime Museum dies in 1920. So we stay 1920 and before with all of our artifacts on display. We're, at any given time, we have 600 pieces, and then we touch on just a few of those. And unfortunately, but we are working into having a longer tour, get that going for the future. But right now we stick at the 2-hour, 3-hour tour. So
what kind of, like you said you drove about 100 times. What made you like go into it?
My dad.
Really?
But he's dead. But I knew he would have went in.
Yeah.
And that was the only reason that made me go in, is because I knew my dad would have went in and introduced himself, which I did. And then I was like, "Oh, how do I help you?"
Yeah.
Because I didn't want him to fail. And then I was there for almost the last 4 years of him being open, and there was nothing we could do. I mean, there was just nothing. We couldn't bring any. We got maybe 5 people in on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Not every day, for those 3 days. And so, Dick finally called it quits, and we put a thing out saying we're closing, and then we had lines around the block.
Yeah.
We did, but it wasn't to come see the collection. It was come see the collection of what they wanted to bid on.
Yeah.
And then, so I went to Louisiana and opened a dime museum down there because I was collecting it already,
Really?
and I had no idea I was collecting it.
Yeah.
And so I opened down there, and a friend of ours, Mark Kosh, he worked a few more years as a deputy sheriff. Then he opened up one in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And he had that open, I think, almost 4 years. And then he closed his doors because folks don't go to the museum. And that's the horrible part about it. Where we can't survive because we have a theater. Well, pre-corona, we had a coffee shop, and that's coming back at the end of the summer. We'll bring that back. Yes, and our coffee isn't like everywhere else. We only carried as many of the top 10 rarest coffees. And so like again, we're very lucky to have a large building. So in the larger dime museums, you would have restaurants. And so at the moment, we just have our coffee shop going. And now if you come and you need a cup of coffee, now again, we carry as many of the top 10 rarest coffees I get my hands on. So I don't carry swill. So we are drinking the best coffee there is on the planet. I'm a spoiled person. I'm sorry. That's my mom's fault too.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Blame her.
Yes. But yes, we do. And still, I love coffee still to this day. So I do have as many of them as I would like to carry. Like right now, we have 3 coffees in here. So, but. So yes, if you would like a cup of coffee, ask me. We have it here.
Can I get a cup of coffee?
Yes.
Right now?
I'm going to pause. So
Intermission.
yes, but and that is where Mark failed. He didn't have anything else but the museum, and that word museum, and I'm sure has turned you away or stopped you from coming here because it is just a visit like you did or experienced as a kid when you do come here. Like we just had. And it happens over and over. We had last weekend, we had a father and his 2 daughters. The one was 13, the other was 10. And they came here. And when they left out, I walked them to the door and the dad was like, so did you have a good time? And they're both like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so then the dad says, and you didn't even want to come here, right? Because he asked them if he wanted to go to the museum. And they're like, no. And like most parents that have teenagers that come here, they won't tell their child they're going to a museum because they don't want them to be mad at them for the week or 2 weeks that they're waiting to come to the museum. You know? So, and it's a horrible thought, but it is our thought. That's what we have. It's the only thing we know is what we are given. So, and I don't think there's any experience like this on earth. Is there?
I don't think so. Yeah. No, I mean...
Have you experienced a museum like this?
No, I haven't. And I'm glad that you do like the guided stuff. Like I really do. Because like with me and probably a lot of people, they're like, oh, let's get to this museum, kind of look through everything, gone. Like 30 minutes in, you've already looked at everything.
But the thing is, we didn't know how to read.
Yeah.
Right? 75% of us didn't know how to read.
When Dime Museum's open.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
And so you couldn't read a placard. And then I believe it would have been a guided tour, right? Yes, you have your collegiate folks that would come in and know how to read and want their own, go by themselves. But I think in a larger museum like ourselves, it would have had docents standing around or someone talking to you because you didn't know how to read. And again, you were signing your name with an X, right? So that was a different period. And I like that part of it. I like finding out what you like collection wise or what you have at your home. Like I love collecting pre-Columbian little whistles, little toy whistles of children. And I had a couple in here and they both collected. Now they just met each other. They were in their 30s. They had no idea of their collections or what they did in life. And when we get over to these little pre-Columbian whistles, they both were like, I have tin ones like that at the same time. And they both had no idea they were collecting the same thing. And I was like, just merge your collections and get married right now.
Yeah.
Which I can marry you. I am a reverend, so I can do that. So
I'll write that down.
But yes, it's fun to see what folks like to collect. And it always comes out of, if you are a collector, it always comes out. I had a guy in here the other day, big collector. And, he was, I love him. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
I won't give his name out. But,
dang it.
He kept asking me over and over, so would you sell that? Would you sell that? Would you sell that? And I said, I will sell it all. I'll sell the entire thing.
Not just one.
Not just one thing. It comes with a bunch of cars, bunch of motorcycles. It comes with a dad, children, my last wife, her new boyfriend. It just comes with a bunch of stuff.
How much are we talking though? What's the price? What's the price
I'll have
tag
to go over that with you.
Okay. We can talk
We'll
off
on that
camera.
side, yeah. So I don't purchase things to sell them.
Yeah.
I purchase them to have you guys enjoy them. And that is when I think is what would I want to see at a museum. Right. And that's how all this keeps getting crazier and crazier. And it does get pretty crazy in here, almost 40 feet long crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's at 12 and a half feet high crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
that's
and
probably my favorite thing.
Yeah,
Not
and
gonna
that's the
lie.
thing is we have pieces, they are 40, it is 40 feet long. It is 12 and a half feet high. And it's to where I would want to see that, right? What would I want to see in a museum? And that's the fun part is also taking our small storefront. I guess we're almost like a TARDIS.
A TARDIS?
TARDIS.
What is that?
TARDIS? Yeah, that guy that travels time when they go inside of his TARDIS, the little phone booth.
Oh, Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know who
They
you're
they
talking
go.
about, yeah.
I thought it's a lot larger on the inside.
Yeah.
And
what
that's
she
what we
said,
are.
yeah.
We're a TARDIS on the outside, and it's a lot larger in the inside.
Yeah.
And you do get lost in here for way. I had a guy. He was a he came down to visit. Actually, he was coming up from Florida to go to Maryland, and he rearticulated the whales for the Smithsonian, and he didn't even get past our lobby. We hung
Really?
out for 6 hours.
Oh, wow.
And his wife's like, "Honey, we gotta go," because they just found that new species of whale, and he had to go take the flesh off it and get it down to the bone so they could premiere it. So he had to deflesh it and then rearticulate it.
Yeah.
So, which was awesome. But yeah, he didn't even get past our lobby. So,
Oh, wow.
but because we sidetracked so much. No, because he's going to tell me that he's, rearticulates whales for the Smithsonian. I'm like, oh, tell me more. It's like, don't worry about my stuff. Let's talk about your stuff,
Yeah.
And then we'll do that in
You
here
became
too.
a student.
Yeah, I did. No, he's no longer with us. He passed away. He drowned, he's a marine biologist, or was a marine biologist. But yeah, he was a very great guy, very kind.
How long ago was that?
Oh, probably a good 6 years ago, 7 years ago when he visited. Shortly after we opened up, so probably almost 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yes, we've been here going on almost 9 years.
Yeah.
So, but we
what's up.
love Augusta. It's a great little town.
Yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful, and that's what drove us here. Is the downtown is so gorgeous, and then the people are so nice. It is.
Really?
Yeah, no, it's scary nice.
You might be in the wrong Augusta.
No,
then.
no, absolutely not. One of my apprentices just moved up here from Louisiana, and his remarks after being here, him and his wife are like, people are so nice.
Really?
Like they're nice at Walmart. I'm like, yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is it's a great little charm. So
Yeah. So I guess, another question is what the dime museum you had in Louisiana, what was the difference in that than it is here?
the Dime Museum in Louisiana would have been twice the size of a regular dime museum. So a regular dime museum would have held maybe, size-wise, it would have been an 8-foot wide or 10-foot wide building, maybe 20 feet long. Just a small storefront, having 10, maybe 20 artifacts in it. So we had on display at that time probably about 80 artifacts. So we were very small because we had 2 tattoo parlors going in our dime museum. We also had a full coffee shop with piles of tables. We had a venue area. We didn't even have a theater in that one. So it was consuming a lot, all our other businesses in there. And so our dime museum stayed pretty much packed in boxes, and we showed you a little bit of it. And
You never got lost or anything in it? Or?
Absolutely not. It was pretty much 2 rooms, 2 smaller rooms, and not maybe 10 showcases. So it was a lot smaller than we are now, way, way, way smaller than we are now. So, but yeah, so nothing like our experience in here. But it was still to where folks were like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, and told other folks, you know. Then we packed up, we traveled around America for a bit and trying to find a beautiful home in a beautiful town, and we stumbled across this place, and here we are.
How did y'all find Augusta? Just driving?
No, we went to historichomesforsale.com. And we looked at each home that we liked, because it will show you the home first, and then we'd tell you where it's at. So then we'd look at the town, and then we would see how many tattoo parlors were in the town. Because not that our visitor is a person that likes tattoos, because our visitor is everybody. But a town that has many tattoo parlors versus no tattoo parlors is more open-minded to art.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, going into a museum, I guess you could say, of strange and weird, you know, and that's, you know, again, we do have strange and weird, but we don't just focus on that, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, 91% of a dime museum is born that way, lives that way, dies that way. It's that other 8 to 9%. You're like, I don't know if that's real.
Yeah.
Right. And it's fun because you'll get folks in here, they'll ask me over and over, is that real? Is that real? Is that real? And I will say yes over and over and over. The word gullible.
Yeah.
Right. Well, no, the word gullible starts in the mid 1800s. And it is born out of the dime museum because folks were so gullible.
Yeah.
And it's like a gull that could eat or consume anything. So we will feed you all the information you want, and now you have to know whether it's real or fake.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the best part about it is, like we go on another story. Dick was when we closed, when we went to auction, this doctor came in and asked if he could put his shrunken head on the auction block because it would get a higher price as opposed to him selling it separately. It was at the Dime Museum. So Dick's like, yeah, sure, bring it in. Now, he bought this head back in the 1970s. This doctor was in his 80s. Now, he worked with humans his whole life. He bought this shrunken head for $2,000 in the 1970s. That's a lot of money. My parents bought our house in the 60s for $1,900.
Really?
Yeah. So, yes, it's $2,000 is a lot of money. And so he brings the head in. I wasn't there at the time when he dropped it off. And so Dick calls me up and he says, Peter, get in here. I want you to look at this shrunken head. I need you to tell me what you think it is. And so as I went in, and as soon as I seen it, didn't even have to hold it. I was like, oh, that's Angora goat. Now, how do you tell a doctor that the shrunken head he purchased for $2,000 in the 70s is worth $8 in the mid 2000s, right? It's just a piece of goat skin. So he did not even know what a fake shrunken head was.
Dang, I think he got scammed a little bit.
Yeah,
to be
a little
honest.
bit. Yeah. A couple dollars,
Yeah.
that's all. But see, that's the beauty of that is you have folks that if you don't work with this and know it, it's not part of your life, flesh or dried out flesh or bone or any of that, or two-headed creatures of any kind, then you don't know what is real or what is fake. But I don't think you should come here wanting to find out what's real or fake.
Yeah.
You should come for the entertainment of it, right? And just have fun with it,
Yeah.
So, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I got to go to the gym anyway. Like you believe that one.
I mean, yeah.
How do I keep this girlish figure? Stay tuned.
Yeah. So what
What are my future plans?
Yeah, what are your future plans with just the Dime Museum? Because you said, they're kind of, people are scared of the word museum. So how are you going to change it? How are you going to adapt it in the future?
I'm not going to change it. You're going to change it.
Oh,
That's the goal,
shoot.
is for you to come here, experience it, and then you now have to put it into words.
Yeah.
And let your friends know. But what we're going to do to change ourselves is, as long as the city loves us and allows us, we're going to build a 6-story tall building. So we'll add 2 floors of museum, which will be just about 12,000 square foot of museum. We'll have just over 600 seat theater, which will be the 3rd largest in downtown Augusta, which will be able to bring in bigger shows. And then we'll have a rooftop bar and restaurant. And so with an absolutely gorgeous view on that. And then the ground floor will have, your gift shop and welcome center in that, so, and we'll move forward with other things,
Yeah.
And then eventually we'll even get crazier.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the goal, is just to continue to expand and give you an experience, keep this same experience, but make it bigger, longer, not harder. It'll be easier for sure. No.
Wow.
He didn't even get this joke. It was right over his head.
I'm a little short. I'm sorry.
So yes, no, we just want to, and that's going to be our hardest thing, is how do we keep the quaintness? How do we keep the intimacy of this? How do we keep the experience the same as we grow and become thousands of square feet, as opposed to just a few thousand square feet, right? And so that is going to be the hard thing, getting docents in that are going to be excited about our collection and to want to share the same experience with folks over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
Right? So that's going to be our biggest hurdle, I think, is being able to continue this experience and make it even crazier for you.
Yeah.
So
are you going to do any name changes? Or are you going to keep it Dime Museum?
I don't know. That's always been, the word museum scares folks, and yeah, it does. And but I think it's very integral to what we are. Is we're the first museums. Now, what was the first museum, right? And that's where we get lost in that word. Is we don't know what it was because they hid the meaning and everything on of what we were, right?
Yeah.
That it was the entertainment side of it and not necessarily an elephant has 4 toes and it eats this much food, as opposed to, how do you get an elephant out of the jungle?
Yeah.
How do you get him on a ship? How do you get him down the street in New York? And how do you get him in this building, right?
A lot of treats.
Yeah, a lot of treats, absolutely. But the thing is, it was the excitement of the adventure of going and finding these pieces in far off lands and bringing them to you, right? And that's where folks wanted to know, is the adventure side of it or the entertainment side of it. So that's where we want to stay with that, and we bring that to you over and over every day. So
it's like a continuous wave.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that's the goal of the whole thing, is to continue going crazier and crazier to where it now is. Like my children now have to figure out where they're going to put a 40-foot long creature that's 12.5 feet high once I die, right? And so we hope that I give them more and more of this, so they won't have to figure out where it goes, that they just keep it right here and continue on the museum, and that's all. And then and the collection stays the collection, and the experience still stays the experience. So, but yes.
Well, man, I appreciate it a lot.
Sir. We thank you.
Everything, even the tour was amazing. Just the way you did everything. It's like you've done it before.
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah.
Not that often.
But
about the tour, before we end real quick, kids 8 and under are 10 cents. 9 and older is $17.96. And if you forget that number, 1796 is the year the dime was first minted in America. So it's not that hard to remember.
Yeah.
So, but yes. And I do thank you for having me on. I really do.
So, I appreciate it a lot.
Sir.
This is probably one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, thank you.
But I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you do a lot. So I want to, appreciate you in every way. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any last words?
No, you're the greatest. Don't stop what you're doing.
You're the greatest.
No. It's probably my mom's and dad's fault again.
It's a blessing and a curse.
It is.
All right, well, guys, thank you guys for listening to this episode. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate Peter and everything he brings to the table. And thank you guys for listening. And I guess we'll see you in the next one.
Stay tuned.
Got my soul in a choke. I feel like I can't breathe. Keep my foot on the gas. My life in full speed. Feel like I